we're back again with part 4 of Gone with the Wind, and we'll dive right into chapter 31. So it's 1886, and Scarlett and her family are just settling into their, new normal. And when I was reading this, I was just thinking about how after COVID, that was like one big thing that happened in our lifetimes. We've not lived through any wars that were here.
Right.
And so I was thinking of that. Just during COVID, it was like 3
weeks to this curve.
Three weeks to slow the curve, and then it was
like
then it was 3 months before we really got to even leave. Be out of like the quarantine period, and just after that, we all talked about our new normal. And so for Scarlett and her family, this is like their new normal, just adjusting to that. And so Will comes home from Atlanta, and he is telling Scarlett that they are going to have to pay even more taxes. So they've already paid some, and he comes back and is talking bad about all the new people that are in government or whatever, and taking over and asking for more taxes. So she's really upset. And she thinks, it says, the war is over, peace had been declared, but the Yankees could still rob her. They could still starve her, they could still drive her from her house, and fool that she was, she had thought through weary months that if she could just hold on until spring, everything would be all right. This crushing news brought by Will, coming on top of a year of back-breaking work and hope deferred, was the last straw. Oh, Will, I thought our troubles were all over when the war ended. And he says, nope. He says, our troubles are just getting started. And that's kind of a theme for this whole part, is just how it's not going to get any better. There's just going to be more things that keep...
It's like new challenges, just different challenges, rather than, the fears of these fighting or but it's now it's just, very different.
So, let's see.
So Scarlett, obviously Will, I don't think they had a lot of ideas of how they were going to come up with the money. $300 was the amount that she needed, I think. So she's desperate to kind of like figure things out. So wants to talk to Ashley, like maybe he'll have thoughts, or maybe we can figure something out.
He always kind of she always wants to run to him to like help her.
Like he's her man.
Yeah. And she wants to get him alone because she's never able to get him alone because his wife wants to be around him, or other people or whatever. So he's outside, and he's splitting logs, and she's thinks she's really sad for him because here's her beautiful Ashley that's out there working hard and getting dirty and whatever.
Field hand. Yeah.
So they do discuss what's going to happen and how they're going to find the money. And Ashley says, in all these months since I've been home, I've only heard of one person, Rhett Butler, who actually has money. And so this is the first time Ashley's been talked about. I don't even know if they really talked about him much in the whole last half of the last part. So there his name comes up again. And they continue talking, and they're going back and forth, and he's very deep about all his thoughts, and she's just frustrated and exasperated. And he takes her hands and he looks at them, and he says, these are the most beautiful hands I know. And he kisses them, and he says, they are beautiful because they are strong, and every callus is a medal. Scarlet, every blister is an award for bravery and unselfishness. So it's just that contrast between before the war, when a lady's hands were to be always covered, so they were probably very white and just never touched anything, never did any hard work. And now here they are, her
calloused and blistered and dirty, and probably
I just like that.
It's funny how they see the hands are a telling thing,
just like the waist.
So they're getting to this, I called it like a passionate conversation. Like she said, Ashley's kind of talking about his fears and what before the war, and then what he felt like after the war. He says he's being punished for being afraid. When he was in prison, he thought, when the war's over, I can go back to the old life and the old dreams and watch the shadow show again. But he says there's no going back. And this which is facing us now is worse than war, and worse than prison, and to me, worse than death, he says. So everybody's kind of got these new fears.
But they both, like Scarlett and Ashley, just want how life was before, and it's never going to be that.
It's never going to be like that. Yeah. So they start. She gets this like they kind of get wrapped up, and she kind of gets wrapped up in like, let's run away, leave them all. I'm tired of working. Somebody will take care of them. You know, there's always somebody to take care of people who can't take care of themselves. So Ashley, let's run away. We can go to Mexico. You know. So she just got like this. Let's just get out of here. Let's just leave the two of us. And he's like, do you think I could go off and leave like Melanie and the baby?
Yeah.
Like I can't do that. Like Scarlett, are you mad? He says.
Yeah.
I couldn't leave them. He says. But then they're getting swept up, and she starts to cry. Dear, my brave dear, don't cry. You mustn't cry. And then he kisses her. Like they kind of get wrapped up. I feel like it's passion.
So
I feel like it's just
yeah.
There's so much going on. So they kiss, and then it comes to this. She's like, "You do love me. You do love me. Say it. Say it." And then you want me to say it? All right, I'll say it. I love you. So I mean, I love your courage, your stubbornness, your fire, your ruthlessness. Like he does love a lot about her, but it's kind of like a different. I feel like it's just more of this like passion.
Yeah.
Rather than
Superficial.
Or I don't think it would last.
Vanity.
Not a lasting love.
Yeah.
Like he has with Melanie, not this. Yeah.
A mutual respect for each other as
Right.
as people, like their inside, their brain,
Right.
their thoughts. And
They just love the
Yeah.
lust or whatever.
Lust,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So then what were you gonna, you had a interesting.
Right, so they're doing that, and he says, and they kind of go back and forth, and what I thought was interesting is at the beginning of their conversation, she mentioned spring. So for Ashley, spring was back again, that half-forgotten balmy spring of green rustlings and murmurings, a spring of ease and indolence, careless days when the desires of youth were warm in his body. And just, it's all beautiful, and then they share this passionate kiss, and then she wants to run away, and then he says, I can't do that. And then she's upset, and she says,
not getting her way.
right. Then it's winter. So she says, they fell silent and looked at each other. Suddenly Scarlet shivered and saw, as if coming back from a long journey, that it was winter, and the fields were bare and harsh with stubble, and she was very cold. And so I just love that contrast that the author uses to show the before and the after.
Yes.
And so then he hands her a lump of red soil, and he's like, you can't leave this. This is your home. Like, take
this. Is
this.
what you have.
This is your land, so you need to fight for it. And so she takes it, and she's still mad. And then she ends up, she's mad, and she walks away. And that meant a lot to him.
Yeah.
So that's how it ends this chapter.
Yeah. Yeah. They had that moment, and now it's like that finale. Like she's walking away from him. I feel like that was kind of a turning thing too. Like she's like, okay.
Yeah. Okay, chapter 32. Sorry. So she goes back in the house with her ball of dirt, and she's thinking that even if she did run away with Ashley, he's right. Like he does truly know her, because she wouldn't want to leave Tara. So she's still trying to, just going over that in her mind, and this carriage shows up, this really nice carriage there's people in it, and out comes Emmy Slattery, the neighbor that was ill, that gave the illness to her mother and killed her.
Right.
So Scarlett says.
Right.
So it's Emmy and Jonas Wilkerson, which is the overseer from
Their home.
their old overseer, right?
Right.
And they announced that they are married, or going to be married.
I think they
are married, right? Which is no surprise.
Yeah.
And Scarlett is very, very upset with this, but she's not surprised, and she's so just angry at them that she just yells at them to leave. So at this point, does she talk about him wanting to buy?
Yes.
So
he's the one that I think he's the reason the taxes got raised, because he wanted to buy Tara, and so I think they like reappraised it or something along those lines to make it worth.
They just decide to ask for more taxes.
Yeah.
But he wants to buy it from them, and so that's.
So if she can't pay the taxes, then somebody can buy it.
Yeah, really mad. So
to know it's him is even a more
yes,
painful.
that's very So she goes back into the house, and then she remembers Ashley talking about Rhett, that he's the one person who has money, and so she comes to the conclusion that that's where she's going to get the money.
Yeah.
And so for the second time, she now has a scheme to catch her man and
all in her head. She just gets this whole thing, like this is, like, it's like a plan, you know, she knows, but I think
I'll do
works, so
X,
she-
Y, Z.
Right, right.
And
I'll do this and it'll work, right.
But it's like, yeah.
She's
We'll see
definitely
what
a fan.
happens.
She definitely, yeah, she's persistent, I give her that.
So I'll marry him and I'll never have to worry about money again. Like, it's just gonna be so easy. And so Mammy, you know, is gonna go with her because she can't go alone.
Yeah.
And she ends up deciding that she can't go without
A new clothes,
Right.
like all of their clothes, obviously they haven't gotten new stuff because there's just not been
everything's
available.
just patched, and she's
Yeah.
just, how am I gonna get a new dress? And she remembers that in Ellen's office,
Yes.
there are some green velvet curtains, and so she just gets everyone in the house to take them down and repurpose them
Yes.
and make a dress. I mean, they were talking about taking out like the silk lining
Yes.
of other curtains to make like the petticoats and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Her sisters, she gets her sisters to help and everybody, yeah.
and they're all like encouraged. They don't know that she's trying to get Rhett to marry her, but they think that
I think it's like
for
a fun
wedding.
thing, and I think
Yeah.
they think it's like a fun thing. It's like, oh, we're doing something.
This
yeah.
is like back in the day when we
Right.
all had nice things.
right,
So
right.
another thing I thought was interesting is they go pluck a rooster's tail feather,
Yeah.
and I have a couple of roosters, and so I
Yeah.
thought that was like,
Pluck their
I
tail feathers.
wouldn't want to do that
No.
myself.
That would
because they're
make
really
them
mean.
mad. Yeah.
So-
yeah. And she is going to. I mean, part of the reason she's going to Atlanta, there is a wedding
Yeah.
that she was invited to. Aunt Pitty had told her about. So it's like I feel like that's what she's saying is happening.
Yes.
And then she,
And just find a way to get the money
Yeah.
and go to the wedding while I'm there. kind of
right,
thing.
right.
And so the whole chapter ends with her saying, he, meaning Ashley. No, I'm sorry. Is this
He actually thought as he stared at Will.
okay? So the narrator's saying,
Yes.
he, as in Ashley, thought as he stared at Will in the shadowy hall that he had never known such gallantry as the gallantry of Scarlett O'Hara, going forth to conquer the world in her mother's velvet curtains and the tail feathers of a rooster. So the two men are like sitting around and talking about it. And, I just thought that was
That's a good one.
that's Scarlett. Just
Yeah.
going off,
Yeah.
doing her thing.
Yep.
So.
Your velvet curtains.
Okay, chapter 33.
Okay.
Mammy and Scarlett arrive in Atlanta. It's so destroyed, and she's thinking back on when she left it, and just it looks so strange. She feels like she's gonna cry, and she thinks about Atlanta, and she says, "They burned you, and they laid you flat, but they didn't lick you. They couldn't lick you. You'll grow back just as big and sassy as you used to be." And I just kept thinking back to when she kept comparing herself to Atlanta, so that's just an interesting little picture
Sassy.
there.
Yeah, like sassy. So she's come with her plan, you know, so they're basically getting into town and they're going to go to Aunt Pitty's house, obviously. She's just got on her mind. She's going to some way get that money, no matter what she has to do. She's just so determined now, I feel like, to not live in poverty again after what they've gone through, that it's like, that's her only focus. So they get to Aunt Pitty's, she's having conversations with her. They're talking about all the people that, you know, she knew when she lived there and like what they're up to, how's everybody doing. She wants her to kind of talk about Rhett without making it too obvious to see how that's going to play in. But Pitty says, "Wow, I didn't tell you, he's in jail this very minute." So he's in jail, he's accused of murder. And
That's a hitch in her plans.
yeah, like, oh, great. Pitty says they may hang him. Imagine Captain Butler hanging. So then she starts to talk about the money too. She says everybody, including the Yankees, believes he's got millions in gold belonging to the Confederate government hid somewhere. So everybody knew that, like, after the war, he comes in with his still fancy and he's got this carriage and he's definitely got money.
Right.
So she still got this plan. If she could somehow manage to marry him while he's in jail, then the millions would be hers should he, like, be executed. You know, if he could get him to do
Write
that.
her into the will or
This is
something.
this extreme plan all the time that she's got going. So basically, they talk about. She's thinking about that, and then the evening ends. She's like, "I'm not feeling very good. I'm gonna lay down, and if you don't mind tomorrow, she doesn't want to go visiting. That way, they'll go visiting, and she can go to see Rhett." Yeah. So her plan is to do that. And they always think, "Oh yeah, get in bed." You know, Mammy puts her right to bed. So
Mammy's all over it, taking
Yeah.
care of her.
yeah. So the next chapter will, get into that. Chapter 34. Okay, so Scarlett has faked her cold. She's stayed in bed. So Mammy and Pitty and everybody's left the house. So she's gonna go find Rhett. So she's got her beautiful dress on. She's making her way down there. to the Yankees. Yeah, in the rain to this Yankees. The Yankees soldiers are around there at this camp, kind of where they're keeping the jail, which I guess it's just like a building. But she asks one of them, and she says she's his sister. And the soldier says, well, he's got a lot of sisters. Like, I guess people have been visiting him.
Yes.
But they allow her to see him. He's dirty and unshaven, of course. I think it talked about that he wanted to have a bath, like a lot, because he was used to that, but I don't think they'd let him do that all the time.
He didn't want to bathe with the other people. The
Yeah,
Yankees. He didn't want to bathe with the Yankees, so he's like, never mind.
Right? He's so like, what's that? Yeah, that manly way. Okay, he's surprised to see her, like, whoa, Scarlet. Wonders if she's forgiven him for leaving her, when they were on their way to Tara, and he says, see ya, I gotta go fight in the army. She hasn't forgiven him, she says, of course. She's kind of going on and on about, I'm just so terribly distressed about you being in jail, and I couldn't sleep. I was so distraught over thinking about you. Like, she's making it all about him.
She's lying and lying and lying.
Mm-hmm. Buttering him up,
right.
Thinking that he's going to say, oh, Scarlet, my dear, I love you, or will you marry me? Like, why do these women, they just think everything is going to be end in marriage?
Yeah.
It was just so...
When she knew he was against it.
Yeah,
so.
He's not a marrying man, and they talked about that. She's also making it appear that everything's fine. She doesn't need any money. That's why she's. I feel like she dressed herself.
How's everything going? Or
yeah. Oh, everything's fine. So
I'm out visiting. We're out visiting just different people.
Yeah, she's not letting on that anything is an issue until.
Yeah, and then he looks down and he's like holding her hands and he's looking at her hands just like Ashley was, and he says. He like figures it out or whatever, and he goes, so you've been doing very nicely at Tara, have you? Cleared so much money on the cotton, you can go visiting. What have you been doing with your hands? Plowing? She tries to get him away, and he's like, these are not the hands of a lady. And so then she gets mad, and she's been found out. And so he like begs her, tell me what's going on.
Yeah.
What's the truth here? Why are you really here?
Clearly you don't care about me.
Yeah,
a little bit.
It's not really about me, like you said before.
Right.
And so she goes on to tell him everything. Like, I need money. I've lied about everything. Everything is wrong. My father's not himself. My mother's dead, we don't have enough people to help, do this. We have the taxes, and he's just telling her, she is telling him everything. And before that, he had said, or she said, what can I do to get the money from you? Because she says, she asks for the money, how much, he wants to know what it's for.
Yes.
He's begging her, what's it for?
Right.
Tell me what it's for. And so she finally does tell him.
Right.
And then he says, well, what collateral will you give me? And then she agrees to, she says her earrings, but he's like,
earballs.
I don't care about your earballs.
Yeah. Then she says Tara.
Yeah.
Like she offers Tara. He's like, I'm not a farmer.
Yeah. And then it's like, I want you. So she agrees to be the collateral. And so then she's...
I have myself, she says.
And so he's like, why didn't you just tell me this in the first place? And they keep conversating about all of that. What else? She knows that he'll just keep tormenting her. He just wants to torment her.
And she finally says, are you going to give me the money?
Right. And he says, I don't have, it's all tied up. I don't have it in my possession.
Yeah.
He can't get to it without
not a dollar in Atlanta.
giving himself away, basically.
Yeah, if he tried to get into his investments or whatever, then the Yankees would know and be in trouble.
So I guess that's really how that whole chapter ends. It's just she's.
Oh, and then he says something about, I'll mention you in my will when she's getting ready to leave, and she says, thank you, but they may hang you before it's too late to pay the taxes.
Yeah.
So she's just like, see ya, got on to a new plan.
Right.
Yep.
So she has to go back home in the rain.
Yeah. Miserable with no money.
Chapter 35.
Yes.
She leaves the jail in the rain, and Frank Kennedy rolls up in his carriage, and
remember who Frank Kennedy is.
It's so frustrating.
He's like betrothed to her sister Sue Ellen.
Right.
So he's older man.
And and Scarlet had given him permission, right? This
Yes.
is the one that showed up at the
Yeah,
house, right?
that was
Okay.
there. Yeah, when he was. Yeah, when the army had come, or some of the men had come to take refuge there, and they were during Christmas, and they
Right.
slept the night, and yeah, he's
So-
one of those.
They're just catching up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he says that he's bought a store, and
He's already made $1,000,
right,
so clearly he's doing good for himself.
and wants to buy another sawmill,
Mm-hmm.
or wants to buy a sawmill, and
So she's thinking, okay, he's got money. Maybe
Right.
he'll be the, maybe
Mhm.
he'll give me money.
so round 3,
Mhm.
trying to catch her man,
yeah, and not her man, her sister's man.
right? So that's her new plan, is to persuade him
Mhm.
to marry her, and who cares about her sister?
Yeah,
Rude.
yeah.
So this makes me so frustrated.
yes,
Not only just trying, like, just marrying a man to get the money is
Mhm.
one thing, like
Yes.
with Rhett.
right.
I mean, that's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then to take your sister's
Yes.
betrothed man.
Yeah, and she told a lie. She
Yeah.
tells him that her sister is going to marrying someone else.
Right.
Oh, she hasn't written you. I shouldn't
Right.
tell you.
And I kept thinking, like, this would never happen now because communication was so slow then.
Yes,
He
yes.
would never have, like, they could be married and never know.
Right.
And
But it's just how does she come up with that so fast? That she just sees the carriage.
She's
Okay,
desperate,
he's got money, so I'm just going to tell this lie. Like she just can come up with a lie so
well,
fast.
it's once he said he had some money,
Yeah,
or he
it's
had
like,
a way to get
oh,
money,
money.
she just latched right onto
Yeah,
that.
and she kind of plays it like woe is me because she'll say, "I have to take care of me and my little boy. Like it's all about me and my, like." But that's frustrating too because I know she wants to take care of Tara and all of that,
Mhm.
but she just makes him. She makes herself sound like this. Oh, I can't do this.
She sounds like she wants to be selfless,
Yes.
but she's not. It's
No.
just, it's her own
Yeah.
pride.
Yeah, yeah. She wants to take care of people, but yet she wants the money. Like it's all
Mhm.
just that's what's driving her.
Yeah.
Right now. And now it's lies. She's just telling lies.
Yeah.
So it's like she's digging this deep grave.
hole.
Very frustrating.
So Mammy's waiting for her when she gets home,
Mm-hmm.
and Mammy,
She sees her get out of the carriage.
I think Scarlet tells her what,
Yeah.
like, just as straightforward about what she's gonna do, and Mammy's like, okay,
Yeah,
let's
she's
get it
like,
done.
yeah. She's like, well, if I knew you were with him, I wouldn't be worried. Like she
Right.
thinks, Frank is the good guy, and
Yeah.
because it's part of the family basically.
So,
But then it's like, why didn't Mammy think? Well, I thought he was going to marry Scarlett, but maybe she didn't know.
well, I think they kind of touched on that, but she's just
It's
whatever's
just like
gonna
whatever.
get
Yeah.
the end result.
What we
And I
need.
just
Yeah.
So they end up going to the wedding
Mm-hmm.
that night,
Yes. Yes.
and I think Scarlet thinks this is the time when I'm gonna hook Frank.
Yeah,
at the
she
wedding.
says to him like he should escort them.
Yes.
Aunt Pitty and her, and to the
And
wedding.
she wants to get rouge and
Yes.
cologne for her hair.
She sends
asks
Mammy
me-
out. Yeah.
Mammy's like adamantly against
Yeah.
getting that stuff.
Rouge, like you don't need to put that on your
Yeah.
face. Like only bad women do that. Like
Yeah.
yeah. She's really trying to get him. I mean, to go to those lengths and to spend the only money that she had
Mm-hmm.
on that stuff.
Right.
Really, she knew she was going to get him.
And then Mammy has to work extra hard getting her dress that's like basically ruined from the rain, dry and straightened out.
Yes, they had to put it by the fire, and somebody. Yeah, they're talking about all that. I can't imagine.
Just so much work.
Yes.
I can't imagine trying to get that dress done in that, like you said, short amount of time.
Yeah,
Because what did they use to like?
dry it.
Weren't they fanning it?
Yeah, and it was in front of the
something,
fire, and someone was
yeah.
still like they were. Yeah, I still don't think it got dry because velvet. I mean, that's heavy and ooh,
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine.
So she talks to all the different people.
Mm-hmm. Here's what different people are doing.
I mentioned in a previous video that we didn't know what Melanie named her son.
Yes.
They just kept calling him the baby.
Mhm.
And they did mention that his name was Beau.
Beau.
But then in this part, they come out and say Beauregard is his name.
Beauregard.
Um,
I like Beau.
and so I'm assuming that was also
Somebody
a captain or a
Yes.
person, like they were named.
like they named him after like Wade. It was
Yeah.
That's interesting how the traditions of naming it after someone that they're not even their family or anything, but yeah.
So
Interesting.
Beauregard, Beau.
Mm-hmm.
And then
But she talks about the people, and she's kind of observing and thinking these people are thinking, oh, it's like old times again, like they're enjoying, and where do they get the money to have this reception and to have these people here and this food and stuff? But she says that the faces in the room were not faces, but they were masks, excellent masks, which would never drop. Kind of like today we all put on our like the little thing that's got our happy face, and I just thought it was interesting that it was noted, like, how times have changed, but people are still wearing that, like, everything's great, you know, but it's really hard, and that's why I'm thinking, like, where did they get the money for this, and how are people making it?
Yeah.
So.
And then she talked about, like, a paper thin slice of cake. Like,
Yes.
go get me a piece of cake, and it's this
So
tiny.
thin.
So everybody got a piece, but it was like just tiny.
Yeah. It's like just enough to go around, but not.
They
too
never really
extravagant.
reveal how they do get the money for it. But
it's interesting. Hard times.
um,
And she talks about how you can't be a lady without money. She's thinking these people are crazy. I can't, they're got because even their gowns, some of the women were patched, and you could tell they weren't the newest. And she's just thinking, I can't be like this. Like, I just can't be a lady without money. That's just.
she's desperate
She's
for the
desperate.
money.
She is. She just does not want to go back. Doesn't want to go back.
Yeah. What else happens at the?
And I mean, Frank, she's talking to him, I feel like, and trying to, Frank Kennedy at present was her future. He had the store and he had money.
And he was very upset about Sue Ellen. I mean,
Yeah.
he was upset.
I think that hurt him. And having Scarlett kind of, fawn over him made him feel good, because I don't think he was used to that. Because he's an older guy.
And
So
they
he's not
say
like,
he wasn't good looking or something.
So it wasn't like this prospectable man that women just, talk to. He's,
And they said middle aged or something.
Yeah,
I
which
wonder
I
what
don't
that
know
means.
what that meant.
Like 30?
25? 30, probably 30.
So I think that's basically how we end with
Yep.
35.
Yep.
And then intro to chapter 36.
Yeah.
It's just like before.
Right.
It's the first line is she married Frank Kennedy 2 weeks later after a whirlwind courtship, which she blushingly told him left her too breathless to oppose his ardor any longer. Like she keeps on this mask all the time, like
and oohing and ahhing over him. It's a lie. That's what I feel bad for
Right.
him, because it's a lie. I mean, I think she might like him a little bit. I don't know.
I think she likes and respects him enough
Yes, because
to be a good wife and take care of him.
Yeah, because if she was gonna say yes to her sister marrying him, then she knew her dad felt good about him. So there's some admirable prospects about him.
Yeah, and she does say later that she wants to take care of him.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
She does want to be a good wife, I feel like, or she wants to try
To make their relationship work so that they're
Yeah.
But he talks all about. Well, I'll get to that. But so they have a letter from Sue Ellen. I feel like the author just doesn't go into that much.
No.
I feel like that would be so devastating.
Yes.
And it's all they say is she's violent, abusive, and the letter was full of venom, and that's it.
Like we can't
There was,
really see what she
And
said.
Scarlett was not it didn't upset her at all that she had upset Sue Ellen.
Right.
I can't imagine doing that to you.
I know. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But I mean, how do you do that and not feel something?
Yeah.
Not
Remorse
feel horrible.
afterwards.
Yeah. She just, her heart is hard right now. It's really hard. She's changed, but she's not changed. It's
Right.
we think we saw this big change in her, and we did,
She
but
kind
she's
of
still,
goes up and down.
it's still so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just one goal in mind, and she can't get away from that.
And she doesn't realize until after they've been wed that she won't get to go back to Tara. She's gonna have to live in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And
Because that's where their
So-
business is. Yeah, that's where his store is. That's where their money is.
yeah, and
Yeah.
he's not gonna leave. Yeah.
Can't leave that.
Even at the moment of marriage, she had not given a thought to the fact that the price she was paying for the safety of home was permanent exile from it.
But she still wants to provide for that home, because she still wants to keep it,
Yeah. And I'm surprised, she wants to keep it so badly, and now she's fighting for something that she's never gonna be able to access
I know.
again.
It is interesting. But it's just that's the legacy or whatever. I guess her dad's there too, so it's just thinking of that.
Maybe she
Holding
thinks
on.
if I keep making money, maybe we can move to Tara.
Yeah, and we'll have enough
Yeah.
money just to live.
Somebody else can manage our sawmill and
Right.
just send us the money, or
Right.
I don't know.
Which is, you never know.
This whole chapter, it gets kind of sensitive about women a little bit, like what wives should be doing.
They weren't really in the world of, working outside of the home. Some of these women during this time took on things like they took on boarders to make money. They had
Making
pies and sewing and things like that to make money, but no one ever went outside the home to make money.
And so Frank's always talking about how he has to, like, happy wife, happy life.
Yeah,
what you're
yeah,
saying
yeah,
earlier.
yeah.
Just make her happy, because when Scarlett's happy,
Everything's
then everything's
great.
fine,
Everything's
and we can
pleasant.
get along, and I'm just going to let her do what she's going to do.
And he becomes ill with, what is that? The gripe, G-R-I-P-P-E.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what illness that is. That's what maybe I was going to look up. But so he's on bed rest. So Scarlett tells him she's going to go check on the store. And then she kind of gets there and she's looking at his account book and realizes he's not a very good keeper of things. A lot of people owe him money, and he's not really good about hounding them for their debts. You know, he's like, oh, it's fine. I think he's
These
just
are all
one of
like
those people.
friends.
Yeah,
So
he doesn't want to,
wanna-
you know, a gentleman wouldn't do that or something. But it's like, well, if they owe you money,
It's business.
yeah, it's just
Not
business.
personal.
Yeah,
It's business.
I gotta make money. You gotta, you know. So she's kind of realizing all that. And then as she's at the store, kind of taking stock of everything, someone walks in the door.
Who would it be? God's nightgown.
She says that. Oh, that's so funny.
I still want to. I don't understand.
I know,
that.
we
We're gonna have
gotta
to
get
find
that.
what that is. But who should walk in? Right.
Rhett.
Yeah.
Rhett Butler walks in the door. It's so funny. His timing is incredible. What does he say to her? My dear Mrs. Kennedy, he walks in. My very dear Mrs. Kennedy. Like, he's like, you know, he knows she's married now. Yeah.
He says she's like, how did you know I was here or something? He says, well, I've come to see you. I came to see you at Pitty's house. And they told me.
So I hastened here to congratulate you.
You couldn't even wait 2 weeks for
Yes,
me
to get
before
out of
getting married to somebody else.
Exactly. Wouldn't it have been wiser to wait until I got out of jail? Or are the charms of wedlock with old Frank Kennedy more alluring than relations with me?
Right.
Yeah. I think so now he's giving her the crap. So again, they kind of get into their little banter.
As usual.
Yep. He tells her, like, I have close to $500,000. Now he's like boasting, like, you could have had this money. And she's like, $500,000. I can imagine her face. She felt a pang of almost physical sickness at the thought of so much money.
Yeah. I need to look up how much that would be
I
in
mean,
today's dollars.
that's still a lot now, but that's a heck of a lot then.
Yeah.
Yes.
If I'll find that out and I'll
$500,000.
put it in right here somewhere.
Yeah, there you go. Or when I go like this. It's crazy.
She somewhere along the line she decides I'm just gonna tell him, because he's like the one person I can just tell the straight truth to all the time.
It's like having a girlfriend, but they're like, yeah, it's funny, the two of them.
But they banter still.
Yeah.
He just jokes around with her, like, continually.
Something about the money. She says, I don't want your money. He says, oh, don't you? Your palm is itching to beat the band. If they show you a quarter, you get on top of it. You know,
right.
He still thinks he still can read her that there's something in there. Yeah. He knows her. It's crazy how well.
And then he basically says he will give her some money or something. Or does she ask?
Yes, but well, as a matter of fact, I could use a little money right now.
Yeah. So he says, what do you want?
More taxes? You know, he says no.
But then what?
Is that your business? I think she talks about how she wants to buy the sawmill.
Yeah.
How she wants to, you know. And she tells him kind of why. Well, then he asks her, though, if this is for Ashley.
Yeah.
Like, he always goes back to Ashley.
Yeah.
Like, I won't give you a cent if it's about him, if it's for anybody, you know.
Yeah. If it's for his breeches or something.
Exactly. So they get into that about Ashley. And she keeps saying, stop talking to me about that. It's not your business. And he said, well, it is. If I'm going to give you money, and if anything's going to happen, he doesn't let it go.
Yeah.
He just
so she ends up telling him, I would like to buy this sawmill. And she kind of tells him the whole plan, right?
Yeah. And he says, well, was Frank going to let you do that? What was Frank going to think? Because he wanted to do that. But she don't care. She's now, like, going to just take this and go with it.
She'll lie to Frank and say that Rhett bought her earbobs.
And that's how she got the money. But she still, it's going to be her business. Yeah. A woman running the sawmill.
So that's kind of at the end of their conversation. He's saying something like, have you forgotten your reputation? Because women shouldn't be like out doing that stuff. And reputation fiddly-dee. I want that mill before you change your mind or Frank finds out that I'm buying it. Don't be a slowpoke, Rhett. What's a little rain? Let's hurry.
Yeah, so she's like, drive me over there now
Right.
before you change your mind. Like, let's get over there. And so now it's like, not only is she buying this business, she's going to be seen with him.
Yeah.
In his carriage.
Yeah. And buying it for herself.
Yeah.
Which is unheard of.
Yeah. She is a determined woman.
And Frank finds out, of course, and he's like he's not happy about it. Mm-hmm. But I think he bought the whole earbobs thing, so he,
Yeah. Did he buy it? Yeah, I think he did. But I think with him and Rhett, I think there's always this like, why is he around so much? Mm-hmm. But yeah, he doesn't want to make her mad. I feel like nobody wants to make Scarlett mad.
No. Because happy wife, happy life.
Yep. She even talked to building a saloon.
Yeah.
On the property where the warehouse had been. Her old warehouse that Charles had left her.
The property, yeah.
She talked about building a saloon. He's like, what?
Yeah.
Like, even that's just bad in general, but then for a woman, so like, right. Good Lord. She is, fiddly-dee. She keeps saying that, fiddly-dee.
Yeah, I like that. God's nightgown.
So funny.
I liked, just because math is such a difficult thing in my home for my children.
Me too.
Particularly my oldest. It's like our hardest subject. They talk about her being able to just do like columns of sums in her head.
Yeah. And how that was like, oh my gosh, a woman should never say she could do math.
Right.
But she's smart. This girl is like, And it's okay. I mean, I don't know how I feel about her just taking over, but I mean, she's determined. And she's smart. So I want her, that's good. She needs to use her skills. Yeah. But it would be good if she could just kind of like bring her husband along.
Bring him in and like maybe encourage him to like do better in his business.
Yeah. And like I have these ideas, let's share these together. Yeah.
Because I thought maybe she would have said to him, let's go together, or let's have a plan about how to get these debts that are owed. I thought there would be more about that.
But she's just like, I'm gonna do it for him. Yeah. Because I give up. Because he's not doing it. Yeah.
I wish the author would have gone into how she did get the money from people. I thought she was going to do that.
Yeah, that's true.
I just thought that would be interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I don't have many notes from the last.
Frank's just always upset about what will people say. He's really worried about what other people think. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which, I mean, I understand that. Not that you should, but it's just a hard time. Like, it's kind of like if she would just have some balance, but she has no balance. She's just going straight for the...
No boundaries and doesn't care about the reputation anymore.
Yeah, that's tricky. He talks about, I mean, obviously Frank wants her to stay home, so he talks about a woman ought to pay more attention to her home. Now she just had a baby.
Oh, okay.
So I think he would like for her to have a child, so that way maybe she'll want to be home, because when they're pregnant, they're not supposed to go anywhere.
Right, and
and then
you probably don't know what she was like when she had Wade.
Right.
She wasn't not like
a baby person. Right.
To that either.
She wasn't going to stay home and Yes, he says a baby would make her happy and would take her mind off things she had no business fooling with. Mm-hmm. So that's his goal next. Yeah. All right.
Okay, chapter 37. This is kind of, things are starting to change a little bit. Mm-hmm. Tony Fontaine rides up in the middle of the night, wakes her and Frank up, and she thinks back to Will and what we talked about earlier, where he had said, our troubles have just begun. Mm-hmm. Or maybe that was Ashley that said that. Well,
both. Yeah, somebody.
This that's facing all of us is worse than war, worse than prison, worse than death.
Yeah.
And just, this isn't the end. There's going to be more.
Yeah.
And so Tony Fontaine has murdered, and he's on the run, and they've told him to stop there, and that she'll kind of give him some food and help get him on.
Get a new horse, because he needs a new horse, because he's ridden so fast.
Right.
In such
and
a
his
amount of
horse
time.
is like,
and he's trying to get to Texas, so long ways yet to go. Yeah.
So they trade out his horse, and Frank is like, he's kind of manning up in this situation where
she kind of sees him, like when they're in their conversation. She's not supposed to be in there. She knows she sees a woman, but she's kind of listening, and she sees him kind of in a different light. Like, whoa, you would, defend and do it, just in the same.
Take care of this person.
Yeah.
So.
I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, they see him on the way. She says. They're still talking to Tony, and I like this. She fell to trembling, and for the first time in her life, She saw people and events as something apart from herself. Saw clearly that Scarlett O'Hara, frightened and helpless, was not all that mattered.
Yes.
Like, she kind of realizes
Yes.
there's more to it.
She keeps having these moments
where she gets there and then
she
she
takes
like
50
regrets.
steps back. Yeah. A little bit forward, a little bit back.
Right.
She's a work in progress, right? Because she's still very young, but she's, yeah.
You know, it says for the first time she felt a kinship with the people about her, felt one with them in their fears, their bitterness, their determination. No, it wasn't to be born.
Yeah.
And we're just assuming that means
Not to
like
be
it's
had.
never going to happen, or
Yeah. It's not going to be.
it's not a phrase that we use.
Yeah. BORNE. Yeah. It's not a phrase we,
So,
use very often. Yeah. That was
but they're just concerned about what's going to happen. And then this is when the big news comes.
Yeah.
And
abruptly, she tells Frank she's going to have a baby. So the little plan worked.
Yep.
Not that it worked yet in his favor, but she's pregnant, so.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes.
Yep.
And then after Tony's gone, you know, they're just constantly getting people coming in, looking, searching everything, like every nook and cranny, like trying to find Tony.
Now that he's a criminal, you know, I think they're constantly thinking they heard that he had been there, so now it's like they want to find him. So she's kind of like on this pins and needles now a lot. Like, they're going to catch us, we're going to go to jail, kind of like they were aiding a criminal.
Right.
By having him in their home and helping him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this just gives her, you know, re-energizes her for her, like, get out there and make the money.
Little fuel under her fire. Yep. Yep.
She was upset for him, like, bringing that trouble to them, but, you know.
It gives her some more reason to get out there and do better. Just kind of, there's not much more in the rest of the chapter.
Just kind of more things that are politically going on during the time and the history of what's going on and
the changes and what's happening in the South after the war, post-war. Get better to see.
Yeah. And then we get to chapter 38.
Still just this fear, I feel like, of being put in jail. And she's more and more pregnant.
But she keeps working.
It's not stopping her from going out of the house.
Right.
You know, you're not supposed to show that, but...
And everyone's just, oh my gosh, like...
They notice it, but she still says she's like, with a lap robe kind of when she's riding in her carriage, but if she even steps up or does anything, you can tell.
So she's not hiding it, and it's just, people are continuing to gossip about her now for this different thing, and...
It's one thing or another. But it doesn't stop her. She's still going on business. She's still going to see these contractors, trying to sell this lumber. It's just this constant thing. It's embarrassing to Frank and Aunt Pitty, but
I made a note too that what she's doing here kind of reminds me of a Proverbs 31 woman, where it's like what is it? I wish I had it pulled up. She buys a field and considers what she would do with the proceeds or whatever. And I just was thinking about, you know, this one little aspect of Proverbs 31 woman. She's doing, like,
she's a hard worker and she's trying to provide. I feel like, I mean, she's trying to provide, but at the same time, she's also trying to just get money. It's like, it's tricky.
She doesn't want to starve. She wants to,
right, which is good.
But
and she still takes care of things.
Down.
She takes care of Tara. Like, she's still, because I think I wrote that down. She's paying to keep Tara running, so she's sending money to Will. She's paying Rhett for the loan, and then she's like hoarding the rest. And she's not putting it in a bank.
Right.
She's too afraid, so it's like in pages of the Bible. She's got it
Keeping
tucked in. She's got
it
all different places to,
They never mention it, but I wonder if part of taking care of Tara is also taking care of Ashley. Like, they don't say that, but I just wonder if...
Yeah. Her dad and Ashley being probably the most important people to take care of. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Probably. And she's lying a lot. Like, it talks about what her mother would think about these sharp practices she's got, and her lying to get, you know, the business over other people.
But she's just like her dad in that way.
Yeah.
Like, just this shrewd business person.
Yeah.
And she takes business from other companies.
Yep. But she kind of justifies her lies because she said she knew she was perfectly safe in lying. Southern chivalry protected her. A Southern lady could lie about a gentleman, but a Southern gentleman could not lie about a woman, or could not lie about a lie, or worse, call the lady a liar.
Right. So she's getting around the society
Yep.
rules.
Yep. So her lies end up putting under another sawmill's business. So they go bankrupt. So she swoops in and buys another mill.
Right. on that same note about the honesty, Scarlett had little use these days for honesty in herself, but the less she valued it in herself, the more she was beginning to value it in others. Like, I can lie, but y'all can't.
Yeah. It gets me where I need to get, but please don't lie to me.
Yeah. And because she helped Frank, he starts doing better in his business. Like, she helps clean up, like literally clean up his shop.
Yeah.
And tidying up all those debts. And so he starts doing better.
Yeah.
But he's also like sick all the time.
Yeah.
He's constantly having colds and sick. So
sounds like he's scary. He's older, so.
Death and taxes and childbirth. There's never any convenient time for any of them. Because she's so like frustrated that like she's gonna have this baby and she has so much work to do.
So many ifs, she says. Never a certainty of anything. Never a sense of security. But like she said, just there's never a good time for anything. So she's having a baby. She's trying to do this.
And she's waiting for June. I assumed that meant that was when the baby was due.
Or close enough that she felt like she needed to be in.
Yes, like get this all done before my confinement period.
Yeah,
I would call
what
it.
she's decided for herself, not
Right.
what's culturally correct,
Right.
acceptable. But yeah, June is like her deadline. And I wrote down that money was the obsession dominating her mind these days.
So Scarlett is riding her buggy around from sawmill to sawmill and making her sales. And she comes upon these northern women that have like just moved to Atlanta.
Yeah.
And they're kind of wanting to ask her some questions about different things. And they're rude.
Yeah.
They're really rude.
Yeah.
And she's really upset by it, and they like insult Uncle Peter, who's basically Aunt Pitty's
caretaker.
like a caretaker.
Yeah,
but I would say like a butler.
Yeah, butler. That's what you said. Yeah.
Because
he's taking care of Charles and Melanie and Aunt Pitty forever. Like he's just like an uncle.
That's exactly. And so they are terrible, and they say terrible things, and he's upset. She Scarlett is upset about it too, and I think when someone does that and you're just like shocked and you don't really know what to say. I imagine she says to them, "Uncle Peter is one of our family," she said, her voice shaking. "Good afternoon." And she just says, "Drive on, Peter." And so he moves on. And so it's like she didn't defend him besides just to say he's a part of our family.
Yeah.
And
she didn't say stop it and stop doing that, but she did just leave. Like I thought that was good. Like rather than just get into a fight, let's just get out of here.
Right.
Like
But Uncle Peter's still upset because he's like, "You didn't defend me," and so he says, "I'm not going to drive you in the buggy anymore." So, but she's not going to be stopped because she has to finish things before she has this baby. So, so she starts just driving herself around, and of course she gets more calluses. Like after her hands have just like started healing, she's getting more calluses, and then who shows up every once in a while?
Yeah. Like this
happens to
knight in armor. Like, here I am again.
Right. So Rhett will like just come upon her every once in a while and just, I'll just drive you around today.
She says they see each other more often than she thought they would, like constantly.
Right. And later you find out that he's intentionally sort of trying to find her.
Yeah.
But he starts driving her around.
And I don't think she realized that he knew she was gonna have a baby, because she does something and he's like, "Well, did you not think I knew that you were pregnant?"
Yeah, it's like she thinks that he wouldn't know, but why? He knows you.
Yes. And even as far as if you can pull your little blanket, I feel like you're still So I think that was interesting, because it was like almost like she was like, "Oh, you saw that out,"
Yes. Silly. She could talk to him about almost everything with no care for concealing her motives or her real opinions, and she never ran out of things to say, as she did with Frank, or even with Ashley, if she must be honest with herself, which I felt like was big for her to notice.
He's like her best friend, kind of like friend and enemy, but he's like the one she can just tell it all to. But it's interesting. Did it talk about too how she didn't have a lot of companions? Because people didn't like her because she was doing this. So she didn't have any female, like Melanie was her last close female companion. I don't know that she ever really had a lot of women friends.
Because she was always,
she's always going after
trying
the
to get
men.
their bows. So
she's not a girl that you probably want to like.
She's kind of a mean girl, I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
Just, more about how she's just all you've done is to be different from other women. If you made a little success at it, as I've told you before, that is one unforgivable sin in any society. Be different and be damned.
But
And
people are
just-
noticing she's a good businesswoman. I feel like other men have noticed that
Yeah.
do business with her.
And so they're just letting it be. Doesn't want to be poor, just wants to have money. I mean, just like the common refrain. Yeah. Oh, here's where it says that. I don't know why, but even before the war, even before I married Charlie, ladies didn't seem to approve of anything I did.
She's just constantly, she's not a one that's just going to sit and be a girl.
Right.
I think, I said that they got to the part where he knows that she's pregnant, and he talks about how he likes babies and little children until they begin to grow up and acquire adult habits of thought and adult abilities to lie and cheat. But he says, I like Wade Hampton a lot.
Yeah.
For all that he isn't the boy he ought to be.
And she remembers, he was visiting and buying Wade gifts and all
Good
that.
with him,
And let's see, like every other mother, are probably determined that they shall never know the hardships you've known, and that's all wrong. Hardships make or break people, so you'll have to wait for approval from your grandchildren. I wonder what our grandchildren would be like, she says. And then he's like, what do you mean, our grandchildren?
Right.
Oh, no, like, backpedal.
Right.
You get out of this buggy, you dirty-minded varmint.
Exactly, you dirty-minded varmints. Don't talk about children, that implies something happens. It's so funny, their manners.
But he tells her, you shouldn't be out here.
Yeah, he worries about her being
driving
alone.
this, and what if this, or get a better horse, because this horse is going to take off sometime and you're going to be thrown over and you might lose your baby. And
right, dangerous.
That,
it's just dangerous for her to be going by herself.
Right.
Well, she don't care.
So they just
he's going to
have
protect
this
her.
Conversation in the buggy each time they're, or whatever they're calling it.
And we were saying nothing is off limits when they talk. Like they just talk about everything. And
she just tells him the truth. He just
relationship.
Straightforward, and that's just it.
Yeah.
And then she ends, by saying that she wanted to go home.
I'll go home in June. I can't do anything here after that. So she's going to go home. She plans to go home for a couple months.
Yeah. I'll go home for a couple months. She did go home in June, but not as she longed to go. For early in that month came a brief message from Will that Gerald was dead. Yeah. But God love him.
I know.
Broken heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
we'll see what happens.
Yeah. This was such a long part. We've recorded it in 2 pieces. So
that was 31 through 38.
So look forward to the next part.
Yep.
Forthcoming.
Yep.
Sorry.
All right, here we are. Gone with the Wind part 4, part 2. So we're 39 through 40 something. Anyway.
Yeah.
So we're going to finish up part 4. Okay, so at the end of the last chapter, we had discovered that Gerald had died.
Yep.
So Scarlett was on her way to Tara.
Yeah.
So she goes by train, this time by herself, and she's pregnant.
Mammy doesn't go with her.
Yeah, it's weird, because she's pregnant, so you'd think somebody would go with her to help her, but no. She gets to the train station, and she's expecting Will to be there to pick her up. She didn't see him.
Right.
But Alex Fontaine comes riding up, and she sees him, and they start talking. He kind of says some stuff, sorry about your dad.
Yeah.
Says some stuff about Gerald, says some stuff about Sue Ellen, and she's very confused, how did he die? What happened? Why is
But
Sue
she doesn't
Ellen...
want to look like she doesn't know all the stuff.
Just kind of okay.
So she just pretends to act like she knows what happened.
Right. And he goes to get Will. I guess Will was getting his horse shod because he thought the train was going to be later. So he goes to get Will. So eventually they meet up again. And Will gets her on the carriage and they head to Tara.
They're proud of Gerald, but they're mad at Sue Ellen, and she doesn't know why.
She's very confused.
That's what it.
So Will talks to her. The first thing he starts saying isn't about Gerald's death. He starts saying he wants her approval to marry Sue Ellen.
Yeah, and she's like, wait a second.
I didn't think you liked her. He was sweet on Corrine, the other sister. But now, Corrine wants to join the convent in Charleston. I think it was a broken heart, like her beau that had died in the war broke her heart forever, and now she wants
she's never going to be the same.
Yeah. So, that's kind of wild.
That's just like, bam.
Yeah.
Done.
So he's like, well, Sue Ellen is, here and I'm here. And so it's like he asks for Scarlett's approval, like he would, Gerald or Ellen if they were there.
And she says, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know what she would, I guess partially too. So then they start talking about Melanie and Ashley. And they're going to leave. Tara, apparently. Ashley has found some work in New York. So it's like, I think Will's reasoning is they're leaving. It'd just be me and Sue Ellen, so we need to be married.
Yeah.
And he wants to stay at Tara
Yeah.
because it's like his home.
He's put all of his work into it.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
it's
the
only
places
fair that he gets to, because there's no one else,
Right.
no other man to take care of it.
Right. So that has her gonna twit like, Ashley can't leave, and go north. He can't leave my site.
So now she has a new mission.
So she's thinking, well, he could work for me, or Frank or whatever, at the mills.
Yeah.
So she's thinking she will bully Frank into giving him a job. So there's all this conversation before they even get to the part about how Gerald died. They have all this conversation.
Yes. Just get this bit out of the way.
Yeah. He think he kept saying, I'm getting to that. It was just all this other stuff he was talking about. So it was apparently that Sue Ellen had worked up something. She wanted to get some money, for them burning the cotton for the Yankees. She had heard that people had been getting money back from the Yankee government for the, what they had done during the war. So she thinks, okay, this is good. Because she was never accustomed to the poor life, kind of like Scarlet.
Yep.
So she coerces Gerald into going into talking to people and to signing an oath that said maybe he was a Yankee loyalist or something.
Yes.
Or Union loyalist, I guess.
Yep.
And she gets him drunk, which is one reason why he ends up going. But then he realizes what he's doing. It's like such a crazy thing. So does he take the oath? I don't think he does.
No. He's supposed to sign a paper, or maybe he does the oath, but then he doesn't actually sign.
It's like he realizes then, what is going on?
Wait a second, and he gets really upset.
And then he rides off.
Yeah.
Like he takes off from Sue Ellen, comes back towards home, and is he on the wagon or is he just on the horse?
I don't know.
I don't feel like I remember that. But
Probably just the horse.
Yeah,
Yes.
and he comes up so fast on a fence that the horse stops instead of jumps it, and he is flown forward and just dies instantly.
Yeah.
Probably broke his neck.
He probably didn't have the buggy because
He
wouldn't
wouldn't
have tried to jump the fence, maybe?
Yeah, probably not. Yeah, that's true. So that's how he dies.
Yeah.
So everybody's mad at Sue Ellen because obviously they think if she hadn't have gotten him drunk and forced him into that, he wouldn't have been mad. He wouldn't have been riding like a crazy person.
No.
And he wouldn't have died.
So it's not directly her fault, but
Right.
indirectly.
But she, yeah, I would feel guilty for sure if I was her.
I totally would. And you never hear.
I don't know ever
if
hear
she
about
ever
her.
has any remorse or anything.
She doesn't. Yeah, that's true.
Look, Ellen, watch me take this one.
Yeah, he still saying Ellen, because his mind was still in that place. So sad.
I know. So moving into chapter 40, she knows the story now, and so she's just kind of checking out Tara and seeing how things are going, and she's found that it's really kept up well. Like Melanie's done the garden and taking care of the chickens, or all that stuff, and Will's done a really nice job of planting the cotton and doing all that. So she's happy.
Yeah.
And she says somewhere, I have Will to thank, or God provided
Yes, Will. That's exactly what Will was something that the Lord had provided. She keeps saying that about certain people.
Right? Yeah, there we go. Will was something the Lord had provided. So they're getting ready for the funeral then after that.
We dug the grave close by Ellen's grave. I think it was just more like a service right there just to bury him, basically.
Yeah.
Family and friends were going to come and gather at the house. They talked about like 50 or 60 people had come, people from all over that they were kind of surprised, but he was just so beloved.
Yeah. There's so little money. She's surprised that they would spend the money to get there.
Yeah.
Another thing is she's still very pregnant. I was thinking about her she borrowed a dress from Mrs. Mead
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
And it's too small, and so she's uncomfortable, and it's, wearing her black and everything.
But it's also like, well, her father's dead, so who cares if she's pregnant? Like, she just needs to go and say goodbye and do all that, because geez Louise.
Right.
It's always something though to hide it. So they go through the service. I guess there was no minister there to perform.
They didn't want to ask a non-Catholic.
Yeah, that's true. Because
minister.
they're Catholic, yes. So Ashley ends up reading from a book of devotions, some things, and then he leads them in the Lord's Prayer. But then he doesn't know, like, he thinks then that it should go longer. Like, he's like, well, I'm done. And I think he's thinking in his head, this should go longer. These people aren't sad enough, or there isn't enough wailing and mourning. So he begins reciting from memory the Episcopal burial service, which he had often read over slaves buried at 12 Oaks. So he kind of goes into this longer. It's just like, wow, impressive.
And before that, they had talked about, they were worried that some of the other people, the townspeople, would kind of lash out at Sue Ellen.
Want to speak and say something, and
they plan ahead that right after he's done, the others are gonna say their piece and then like end it.
Be done.
So there's no chance for anybody else to say anything.
Yes.
Which I get that.
Yeah.
Don't want to have a big scene.
Yeah.
Right then.
Right.
So.
And then Will, I think Ashley looks at Will. So Will is the first one that starts talking right after he ends.
And he's so witty and smart, and he's forward thinking, because he decides to announce the engagement to Sue Ellen first thing.
Right.
Like, let's just get this out of the way.
Right.
That I'm going to marry this person that you despise.
Right.
And so now you cannot say anything about her.
Right. He did that, is making it clear from the beginning. Yeah.
I thought that was really clever.
Like, he's gonna take over now, and this is what's happening, and he's here for Tara, and they respected him, for what he had done for Tara. So it was good. He was a good person to speak up.
So he moves on and says good things about Gerald. I didn't know him like you knew him before this happened, before his wife passed away and all that. But he was a good man, and I'd be happy to call him Pa. And this line that says, "There ain't nothing from the outside can lick any of us." They just
keep talking about that, how they're just not unshakable, like they're not going to go down without fighting. They just keep coming back.
And she's upset all this time, but the constant talking, I think, is keeping her mind off of getting really truly upset about Gerald.
She doesn't let herself go there.
Feel it. So
they decide, though, that she needs to go inside. I guess it's hot and going on and on, and she needs to go inside, and the older ladies are going to go with her inside.
Yeah.
So they
I had a note to myself, you go, Will Benteen, because there's not going to be any other words said. This is it. And sends them in, like you said.
Yeah, sends the women inside towards. They get to talking.
And I know that the moment... it's grandmother Fontaine that is kind of they want her to go in because she's elderly.
Yeah.
But I'm like, the moment that they're alone, I know this is going to be a good conversation because of the one that she had with her before.
Yes, she's wise, and she doesn't mess around, and she doesn't skirt around the issues. True.
And who goes? Oh, Mrs. Tartleton goes in too.
Yeah.
I love Grandma Fontaine because she just tells it like it is. But they go on and on about she's basically judging all the different people, Grandma Fontaine, but I don't know.
Will and him marrying Sue Ellen, and how they're not in the same class, because Will is obviously beneath or whatever, but Scarlett doesn't even, she's like, what does that matter now? As long as the girl gets a husband, he can take care of her. She's even saying that herself. Like, at this point, it just doesn't, it's not a thing.
She had this one line. She's talking to Scarlett. You were always hard as a hickory nut, even as a child, and I don't like hard females, barring myself.
Right.
But you always find that people that are like you kind of rub you the wrong way. So,
like your children that are just like you, that you
like
butt heads with.
God,
love them.
But she's like, Grandma Fontaine's she's confusing because the whole time she's kind of like ragging on Will.
Mm-hmm.
But then she's like, but I like him and he's doing a good job here.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he's not good enough. And it's
she just needs to make her point that this is the way, it shouldn't be this way, but he's okay. In hot society, the way it was before. It's like, it's just not the way it was before the war. They just have to do what they have to do now. Can't fool with that stuff.
She compares them to wheat and buckwheat, which I thought was interesting. Mm-hmm. We bow to the inevitable. We're not wheat, we're buckwheat. When a storm comes along, it flattens the ripe wheat because it's dry and can't bend with the wind. But ripe buckwheat got sap in it and it bends, and when the wind has passed, it springs up almost as straight and as strong as before. We aren't a stiff-necked tribe. We're mighty limber when hard wind's blowing because we know it pays to be limber. I don't know, just she kind of goes on, but I just thought that was interesting.
Good.
I wondered if that was really true.
Yeah.
Look that up and
yeah,
see.
that's true.
The rest have gone under because they didn't have any sap in them, because they didn't have the gumption to rise up again.
Gumption.
Know that word.
Mm-hmm.
She also said another thing about hasn't the gumption to say boo to a goose, which I've never heard that phrase before, but I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. Boo to a goose.
And she talks good about Melanie, Melanie pulls them through. And does she talk bad about Ashley too? Like saying that
the turtle Ashley being called a turtle on his back.
Because he just is floundering around
he's not a farmer. He's not a. But I feel bad for him because it just probably doesn't know. Not his fault, but.
I mean, different personalities. I mean, he and Scarlett raised the same way. Both want it to be the way it was.
Yeah.
But she is willing to accept that it's not going to be, and she's going to do what she needs to do to move forward and to provide. And he's
he's stuck. Yeah, stuck. Yeah. That's true. So it's kind of like a turtle on his back. Just a sad way of looking at it.
Yeah. But I still
helpless,
love Melanie.
Yeah. Yeah. She's the one with, the calm and the storm, I don't know how you describe her. But on the thing, her voice, on the audio, her voice is always the still, calm voice through everything, whereas Scarlett's is more sassy and, always up and down. And, So she's definitely.
And then after all of that talk, Scarlett says, "You're a mighty sweet old liar. You didn't mean a word of all this rigmarole. You've just been talking to keep my mind off Pa, haven't you?" Partly for that reason.
Right.
Partly because what I've been telling you is the truth and you're just too stupid to realize it.
Yeah.
So I just that whole part was just interesting, talking to Grandma Fontaine.
Yep. Good conversation.
Okay, so chapter 41.
Yep.
It starts just with Scarlett making good on the promise that she was going to give Pork the watch way back a long time ago.
Yeah.
So she gives Pork Gerald's watch.
Gold
and
watch,
he's like, "Really?"
Yeah.
He's so excited. And she's like, I'll take it to Atlanta and get it engraved. And she's like, he goes, "No.
Yeah, don't
take it away.
Right.
Maybe you'll change your mind."
Right.
So that was nice.
Yeah, nice sweet little thing there. Scarlett being sweet.
Yeah. And remembering her promise and fulfilling it. Because I can see her just completely being too wrapped up in her own stuff.
Or taking it and selling it. And, money. So it wasn't about the money this time.
And then it just moves right into Scarlett offering Ashley to run the mill. Mm-hmm. And he says no.
I mean, she's like, "But I need you to help me." Like, she makes it sound like she's just desperate. I need you. And he's, part of it is his pride. Because he doesn't want to just have this woman always helping him out in life. And partly because their relationship is just still this weird thing.
And he makes the mature decision to just get away from it so that he doesn't have that temptation.
Exactly. Good for him.
So.
She gets upset though, and she's crying and then,
loud.
Yeah, very loud. I'm making a dramatic scene, I think. And Melanie comes in. "What's wrong, Scarlett? Oh, my precious Scarlett." And so Scarlett sees this and uses it to her advantage. Mm-hmm. "Oh, Ashley, he's so mean. He just so blow. He won't do." And Melanie's like, "Ashley, how could you upset Scarlett, especially in her state? She's pregnant. How could you make her upset?" And why would you not want to help her after all she's done for us? Like just
Yeah.
on and on.
Yeah. And so she basically is in agreement. Like, we do need to help Scarlet, and we're gonna, whatever. And Ashley ends up saying,
Yeah, right there.
Scarlet, I will come to Atlanta. I cannot fight you both. It's like he's defeated.
Yeah.
I can't go against my wife, my
Right,
wife.
right. He put
So-
her in a hard. Scarlet put him in a hard
Yeah,
place. Yeah, that was her intention.
And of course, Melanie's like, "Oh, Scarlet, thank you. I'm so happy that you came up with this."
And she wants to go back to Atlanta. I mean, that's where her
Yeah.
family is, and where she would love to have a house. I feel like she wants her own. Living at Terra was nice, but I feel like she wants to have her own house and her, that
And they
her
would-
family have their own
Yeah.
everything.
They would be less under Scarlet's,
Yeah.
monetary
Yes,
help
yes.
if they had their own home.
Right.
Like, she's helping them by giving the job, but she's not, giving the money.
Right,
in
right.
a direct way.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and then it just from there,
Mm-hmm.
they just move right into, Sue Ellen and Will get married,
Yep.
and then Corinne goes to the convent.
Yep.
And Ashley and Melanie and Bo go to Atlanta, and
Yep. Start the life.
yep,
Pretty quick. And the funny, they buy a house right behind Aunt Pitty's house, so it's like their backyards are
yeah,
backed up to each other, so it's like perfect because they can just go back and
Yeah.
forth, and yeah, that's perfect. There's a lot about Melanie.
and Honey and
Oh,
India,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
who are
Ashley's sisters.
Ashley's sisters, come and stay with them too.
Mm-hmm.
So
India ends up staying.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Honey goes on, or
Yeah, because she's
right?
married, but India, or she gets married or something,
Oh,
because
yeah.
India is not married.
Right.
Yeah. So she stays on with them.
I was thinking during this part that Melanie kind of reminds me of Elizabeth Thatcher
Mm.
in When Calls the Heart, just like just this. I don't know
Yeah.
why, or maybe just the characters of that whole
Yeah.
series. Just,
Yeah. That's true. I can see that.
I don't know.
But a lot of this is now about Melanie and how she's kind of becoming this popular part of the
Yeah.
society and doing different things. Music.
She's
and-
not well, for one.
Yeah.
Too, I wrote that down. She
Very thin.
Mhm.
Just really, shouldn't have any more children. But yeah, having one took a lot of her health.
Mm-hmm. I wrote that she kind of becomes quite the philanthropist, but I don't know if
Yeah.
it's like philanthropy as much as like, what do you call people that just do
I mean, she's
volunteer work? and
yeah,
stuff,
it's like
you know?
volunteer work, charitable
Social.
things, yeah, social, just different circles she
Yeah.
was in. I mean, things that entertainment wise, like music and drama, but yeah, but also for good causes.
Yeah, and she's head of like everything.
Yeah,
And
she
then-
suddenly just becomes this. Yeah,
There gets to be a dispute about the weeds on the Union soldiers' graves,
yeah.
and they're fighting about should they remove the weeds or should they leave them, and
Mhm.
one group wants to remove them and one group wants to leave them, and I thought that was great. Melanie defends the
Yeah.
removal of them,
Yeah,
and I was just kind of to me that was kind of like praying for your enemies. It was
Yeah.
like just
like they're
treating
dead, like
everyone-
they're there, like let's just at least like respect them now.
Mhm.
Yeah, that part is over.
so she just kind of puts her foot down.
Yeah, it was good of her, and that was a shock to people. I feel like she got pretty, yeah. She didn't like to make people mad. She
No.
doesn't want to ruffle things, so for her to like just stand her ground was really good.
But she knows, she always steps in when it really does count.
Yeah,
When Scarlett shot the soldier that came
Yes.
in the house, she was like right
Right
there
there.
to just
yeah.
help figure it out.
No, and the fire in the kitchen, she was right
Mhm.
there. So that's when Scarlett said she's always there when you need her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's true.
And they were all happy afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
It was like everybody cried and embraced Melanie, and it all ended up in a love feast. And Melanie was made secretary of both organizations.
Right. She's like a hero now. A
Because she just
heroine.
gave them this huge pep talk about how we should take care of them. How would we like
Yes.
it if our soldiers up there, nobody took care of
Right.
those graves? We're hoping that there are Union
Yeah,
women
good
up
Yankee
there
women.
that-
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. That would do that too. So let's
Right.
just think of the person, not necessarily what happened. 'Cause they're all people. That was good. I think that the business isn't going quite how Ashley running the mill isn't going quite as Scarlett had hoped. You know, he's not doing quite as well as she had hoped, and she's of course pregnant. She can't get over there to help him, and she just thinks if I could just get there and show him and it would be better. And her other guy isn't doing so great either, so it's like both her mills are kind of suffering right now, and she's just so, you know, has to be pregnant right now. That's just not great. She says, "What a mess it was to try run a business and have a baby too."
Yeah.
That's why they didn't do that back then.
Yeah. It was a lot. Now people just work right up until
Yeah.
That's what I did. Does it, at this point, has she hired? I don't know.
She hasn't hired,
Anything else?
but she hasn't. She plans to hire someone else for Hugh.
To replace him.
Yeah, to replace him. She hasn't hired him yet, and there's talk of hiring convicted criminals because they're trying to and using them since she can't seem to keep
Cheaper
people
labor.
working. So she's gonna try that, and that just appalls Frank. So she's always doing something that's just, oh my gosh.
She makes up her mind that's her last kid.
Yes, she says she's not having any more children. Frank wants a big family, but she can manage Frank somehow. She says this was her last child. The mills were far more important.
Yeah.
Back to that again.
Chapter 42 just starts with Scarlett has the baby. It's a girl. It's awful because she thinks the baby is ugly and it looks like Frank.
I know. Clearly you didn't think Frank was very good looking. But sometimes when girls come out looking like their dads, it's always kind of like, at first. Babies have to grow into their...
Yeah.
It's just funny.
She was named Ella Lorena.
Lorena.
Ella for her grandmother Ellen, and Lorena because it was the most fashionable name of the day for girls.
Yeah.
Even, just different names of the time. Like, it doesn't really say, like, how long she waits. I was curious how long she waited after she had her before she started working again. Hopefully she gave herself some time to rest and recuperate.
Frank was very excited about it. He liked having a little girl. And his first one.
Yeah.
She's still just constantly, when can I get out? When can I get to work? I will walk. She just wants to get out of the house.
Yeah.
She would not be, so Frank says no, like, you're not going anywhere. And he locks up the carriage and the horse in the livery and says only he's the one that can, don't let her get to it. So she goes to Melanie's house just in a temper, and she says she would not be treated like a naughty, simple-minded child. And I'm thinking, you are acting like a naughty, simple-minded child. So she goes over there thinking, unburdening herself, telling him, why would he do this to me? And she keeps saying, I'll go, I'm going to go, I will walk, and Melanie's like, don't do that, Scarlet, you need to go lay down, you're looking peaked and all this stuff. She's so determined.
Have they at this point talked about dangers in the town? We haven't gotten
Not as much yet. Yeah.
But then Archie, so Melanie's like taking in just people who are passing through, or
in her cellar she's letting people stay or live or whatever.
And there's this older man, Archie, and so Melanie sends Archie to like drive her around. Says that, so because protection, she wants some kind of protection, or a woman shouldn't have driven herself around anyway. It wasn't proper, but then partially there's just a lot going on still, so somebody needs to be with her. So Frank agrees for Archie to take her, and that's what happens. He starts taking her to the mills, and better than riding away so brazenly with that butler man.
Yeah.
And of course he hasn't been around for a while.
Right. So she's very happy to have someone take her, do all that, and get back to work.
I guess she just
checks on the mills. Hughes, she gets to the one where Hughes running that mill, and his people haven't shown up, and
she finds out a lot about Archie.
Yeah.
And then she discovers, unless she had something before that, that he was a convict. Yeah. And that he got out so that he could fight in the war.
Right.
And she's like, Melanie sent a convict to like drive me around.
Yeah, and Melanie had a convict in her house and with her children. Yeah,
Did
like
she
all
know
of
this?
that. Yeah.
And he said, yeah, it's known from the beginning.
Yeah.
He had murdered his wife.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that was like even worse than just
Like he wasn't
theft
a thief
or
or anything.
something,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Kind of crazy. But he did seem like just a decent guy now. It wasn't like, I don't think he was out to do that again or, you know.
Mm-hmm. There's some goings on about the legislature and
The 13th Amendment
yeah.
being ratified.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So they go through that, and then I think that's at the point where they kind of get worried about the state of things.
Yeah. And she does end up leasing 10 convicts for her mills.
And then after that, Archie had said, I won't drive you after that because I don't believe in, using the convicts to run your mills. So.
Which sounds wrong, leasing. Yeah. So, yeah, I agree with him.
Yeah.
So he doesn't do anything for her. He'll take the other ladies. Like, he's been doing that all along. Now they're like, oh, we got this guy, this kind of protector who can drive us and protect us too. And so everybody's been kind of a lot, using his services. Which is probably helpful to him.
Oh, and then she does end up, she moves Hugh to a different position and hires Johnny Gallagher.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. I can't think of anything that's at the end.
Is Ashley upset at the end?
Well, she does. She sees something different in Ashley.
And he's just like, he's so removed from, he just...
I just think he's just kind of going through the motions of life, and it's not, for his wife and for her.
Mm-hmm. So, next is chapter 43, and... Dun, 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 Rhett is home.
Yeah.
Come back, and
she's sitting there rocking the baby. Yeah, she's rocking the baby up, and he comes up and.
I was glad to see that she was actually taking care of the baby a little bit.
Exactly.
I know that she probably nursed both Wade and Ella, because you had to do that.
Yeah.
Then, so I know she was doing that. It's just she doesn't really talk about it, which is that's whatever.
Yeah. She's not super mothering anyway, but it is nice when you get those little glimpses of her.
Yeah, that she's not just like feeding the baby and handing her off to Mammy or to Dilsey or whoever's
taking care of her. Right, exactly.
So he talks bad about boys, like
Rhett is like nuisances.
Yeah, don't ever have any more boys, Scarlet.
I know, like, geez, okay.
Okay. But she kind of finds out more about Rhett and his life. Which was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, she asks him why he keeps going to New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
This is the point when he says, "I have a child there that I'm he's my ward."
Yeah.
So he has someone he's taking care of there that he goes to see.
Yeah. Not a woman. I think she thought it was a woman. Yeah.
Which I'm thinking, if he has a ward, could it be his child? Just,
right. Right. Never really hear that part.
But you hear more about Rhett's father's death and just more of his history.
Mm-hmm.
So the end of this chapter, they're talking about baby Ella, and Rhett says, "I suppose Frank is bursting with pride," and she says, "Yes, of course," and he has lots of plans for this baby, I suppose. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, you know how silly men are about their babies. And and Rhett says, "Tell him if he wants to see his plans for his child work out, he better stay home at night more often than he's doing." And she's like, "What?"
Yeah.
And she gets mad, and they, that's kind of how it ends.
Oh, you vile creature!
I think she thinks that he's talking about running around with women, but I was thinking, is he in the KKK? Is he,
Yeah. Never. I think that he told her he wasn't. I mean, I was appalled at that.
Yeah, because she didn't want him to do that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I don't see him being with other women and stuff.
Yeah.
And he's going to these political meetings, you know. So.
Yeah, he seems very much into that side of that side of things, like what's going to happen to the South now, and post-war and all that stuff.
Right. So that gets us through to chapter 44.
Yes.
And Archie's still taking her, or is not taking her anymore.
Right.
So she's out by herself. And
It's supposed to be. Nobody likes that she does that.
she's going to see the mill that's further away.
Yeah.
She has to go through the shanty town. And
Pretty rough,
it's kind of
a rough neighborhood,
yeah. And she sees like a man hiding behind, or something, like a man hiding behind a tree, and come to find out it's Big Sam.
Yeah.
And
she had her gun out and everything, like she was
she was.
Yeah, at least, I mean, I guess she's carrying a gun when she's by herself.
Yeah.
She's trying to protect herself.
So they have a good conversation about what he's been up to, and he says, like, I don't know, was there anything else? But she just asks him to.
Yeah, well, she says, "Come work." He wants to go back to Tara. Like he'd been all around with a Yankee soldier and had worked for him and had gone up north and all around and made his way back, and he wants to go back to Tara. And then he says to see Ellen and Gerald, and she has to tell him that they both died, and he gets real upset.
But he's on the run.
Yeah, he's on the run because I think he's killed somebody.
Yeah.
So the Yankees are looking for him.
Soldier.
But if he could get to Tara, I think he thinks he could be safe.
Right. So he says, I have some things to do. So when you come back through here, stop for me, and I'll pick you up, and the Scarlet will take him on.
Yeah, we'll get him
the train or whatever. So she moves on, and she goes to the camp area where the other mill, and the convicts are like on the brink of death, basically.
Yeah,
they're all shackled
away.
together. They've not had anything to eat, obviously.
Right.
And she's been buying all this food and having all this food sent, and she's like, "Why are they starving?" You know. And she looks in the where they're cooking, and they're like making bean soup with nothing else. And she's like, "Where's the side meat?" And all his rations are like gone, and she gets really mad.
Yeah. Because she doesn't want them to be treated that way. That wasn't her intent. So she just wants them to work, and she'll provide for them, and she clearly has. But it appears that Johnny Gallagher is selling some of it, or it's his own. I think even the cook says, "Well, that's Mr. Gallagher's, his portion of stuff." Yeah, his private stash or whatever. So clearly, and she gets really mad, and she makes one of the men come in. She gives him a whole ham and says, "Take this out there and let everybody have some." So they're just like chowing down.
But then she has this inner struggle between, I don't have anybody else to run the mill, but I really need him to get out of here because he's not doing a good job.
Yeah, and if something happens to these men, then it's on her because she's allowed him to run it that way, and it's bad.
So she ends up letting him continue because she can't. There's nothing she can do at that point.
Especially because she couldn't sit there and watch the guys. Like then she would have nothing, nothing. And she decides that. What does she say? Oh, she's going to take money out of his pay, like maybe. And they talked about how maybe he would then be better or something. She's trying to make a deal with him. I guess. Yeah, we'll see.
And she is worried about them, but I marked this. Oh, I'll think of them later.
Yeah.
She decided. She can't think about it.
Got a lot to think about. So by the time she's headed back towards Shantytown, it's dark. Yeah.
And
she didn't see Big Sam anywhere as she comes up on the place.
But these two men, a white man and a black man, come out, and they basically like attack her and
looking for her money.
Right.
Yeah.
And Big Sam does show up and rescues her.
Yeah.
And gets her. Well, it just that the chapter ends. She's like, we just need to get home or whatever.
Drive on quickly. Yeah, it's kind of very scary for her. She was pretty traumatized by that experience.
Yeah,
ripped her dress and
ripped her whole top open.
Very embarrassed and violated.
Yeah, and that's how that ends. I can't. She gets him. Okay, so chapter 45.
Yeah. So she comes back, and it's
Right.
like it doesn't really talk about what happens other than Frank takes her and Aunt Pitty and the children over to
Yeah.
Melanie so he can go to a
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah.
It's like
And she's
like,
what?
I've just been through something traumatic, and you just
Why
want to
aren't you
like
taking care
drop
of me?
me off.
Yeah. And he's all completely calm about everything, and
Kind of weird.
yeah, it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
So.
And she's just not. Yeah, she just doesn't understand it. Not very happy about it. She's in tears and she's enraged, like she just can't understand.
And so then they're all sitting around sewing.
Yeah. Kind of like
And-
what they did when the men would go out.
On the regular time.
And Archie's there, though. He's
Yeah.
always there.
But it's just, Scarlett's really confused because she's like, what is happening? Melanie is weird. India is being weird.
Mm-hmm.
Archie is not asleep, snoring on the couch. He's like up and
Kind of looking
like,
around. Yeah. Being more
paying
alert.
attention. Yeah, alert.
Yeah.
And so she knows something is going on. And
Mhm.
she's like, tell me what it is. And they get loud. And Archie's saying, be quiet.
Get back to your sewing. Get back to your
Right.
sewing. Don't let them, you know. So something's going on where they don't want to let on. Act normal or whatever.
And she doesn't really like India anyway, right?
No, I don't think so.
So they go around and around about that. And then
India's been staring at her, so she's like, I'd be
Mhm.
much obliged if you tell me why you've been staring at me all evening, India. Like, what is your problem?
Yes, just get it out and let them. You make me sick, Scarlett O'Hara. She complains her, of course.
Mhm.
But they keep telling him to be quiet. And then someone knocks on the door. And it's Captain Butler. And they argue about whether they're going to let him in.
Yeah.
But Melanie's like, okay, I'll have to do whatever or say what you're going to say.
Mm-hmm. And he says, where have they gone? Tell me, it's life or death.
Mhm.
Like, where have the men gone? And it's like, what, Scarlett is still like, what? And Pitty, too. She didn't
Yeah,
know
she
anything
didn't know.
either, what was happening.
Yeah.
And they're all just like, and then what's his name? Archie says he's a spy, a scallywag.
Yeah.
Or India says that, too. India's the one who says that. Yeah, she thinks that Rhett's not on their side, or, because I don't even know. There's so much happening.
But they end up telling him.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes off, and that's it. And then they have a conversation about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that just keeps going on.
They tell him he leaves. And
Scarlett's just asking, where's Ashley? What's happened to him? And then, India starts to say something, and Melanie, India, please. Scarlett, perhaps we should have told you, but you've been through so much this afternoon, and Frank didn't think. And you always were so outspoken against the Klan.
The Klan.
Mm-hmm.
And so they tell
She's
that
shocked.
Ashley and Frank are both involved, and Scarlett is livid.
He promised me, she
Yeah.
says, so he must have told her he wouldn't do that, but yeah.
And it's always just looking back on him and being so calm with all that stuff when he would get so rattled about other things. It just, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just strange.
Yeah.
And so then Archie lays into her basically, this is your fault. You were out gallivanting around by yourself and
Got yourself in trouble,
yeah.
which I don't think I wouldn't say that she did that to
Yeah.
herself, but
Yeah.
In that part of town, she shouldn't have been in that part of town, true, but these men did that, so that's what they were doing. They're gonna go get revenge, I guess, for what they had done to Scarlett, which is why it was a matter of life and death.
Right. And so you were just saying earlier about Melanie's voice is always so, she sits down and starts reading the Les Mis.
Yes, she's reading aloud out of the, while they're all just sitting there waiting for whatever's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's wild.
And Scarlett's like, I didn't listen to a word she said because I would,
Just so, how can you focus at the point like that? Mm-hmm. And then someone comes, I think it was a Yankee officer, Yankee captain, comes in and looking for Mrs. Wilkes. And she says, what do I owe this intrusion?
Yeah.
And I'd like to speak to him. He's not here. So
and they just
they know something's going
kind
on.
of surround the house to watch for them to
When
come
they
back.
come back, yeah.
Right.
So now they're sitting there still pretending to sew and pretending to just keep going on and on.
Right. When all this happened, I was just thinking, geez, this book just, there's always something,
I know, seriously. One thing after another.
Yeah.
It's intense.
So Rhett comes back.
And he's got Ashley and
Hugh. And they're all drunk.
Yeah.
And they're
talking loud
Yes.
and singing and carrying on. Like,
and
drunk
they've
people.
got Ashley between them, like they're carrying him up because he's so drunk he can't, whatever. And Melanie, actress that she is,
Yes. Beautifully done.
is like,
bring him in, come on, he's drunk again.
Drunk
like,
again.
Rhett, what did you do
I told
to
you
him?
not to do that, or whatever. After he promised.
And Scarlett's kind of like, then I realized this was a play.
Yeah.
Like, nobody was drunk, and Melanie knew that. Like, it was all just happening before her eyes,
Yeah.
like this dramatization.
Melanie is just like so quick.
Yeah, it was like Rhett. They're both very clever with,
So they go through this whole thing about they were at Belle Watling's and they were drinking and the guys they keep questioning them. The soldiers, the captain was questioning them about what?
Oh, like Rhett?
Yeah, like saying I've got to arrest these men.
Yes, arrest them for what?
Yeah.
Drunkenness? Like, can
Yeah.
you not get drunk? And just keeps saying that's where they were and making sure that, Rhett had been there. So they've been there with me. We got in a brawl, broke a mirror or something and she kicked us out. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Arrest them in the morning then. They can't run away in this condition. And there's witnesses to prove that and whatever.
Right.
So do they go out, like, does anything else happen before the captain and all those men leave?
No, I think I think they take Hugh Elsing with them. They go ahead and take him with them, but they leave.
They leave Ashley.
Yeah.
And they take Ashley in the back room. Scarlett sees like a moist spot on the couch and she's like, he's bleeding.
Yeah.
So, he's been shot.
Like in the shoulder. And
so they're trying to take care of him and then.
Take him upstairs and get him, find a doctor that's not any doctor, someone that will help them and keep it a secret, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
So they send Rhett sends India out to find the doctor, not Meade, because they need somebody else. And she goes and does that.
Yep.
What else happens?
Rhett is still there.
Oh, he gives instructions to Archie too. There's 2 dead men. Take them over to this field. Put pistols in their hands, like they just had a duel, basically. And
I think the bloody clothes or something. Hide them up in the chimney of this abandoned place, and he gives them lots of instructions to take care of kind of the whole thing.
Right. And this whole time, when they were gone, and Scarlett didn't know where they were. She was so worried about Ashley the whole time.
Yeah,
and
just
hardly
Ashley.
just didn't even think about Frank.
Yeah. Always the way it is. That's just her one moment.
And if there wasn't at the very end, was there anything else you had?
Yeah, that was so. Of course, she did end up asking about Frank another time, and Rhett said, "Oh, they'll time for that." While they were just kind of tending to Ashley, she said something about it, and he didn't say anything at the time. Yeah.
So she leaves and goes into the front room with Rhett, right? So they could have a conversation.
Yeah.
And then she says, "Was Frank at Belle Watling's?" He says no, and he bluntly says, "Archie's carrying him to the vacant lot near Belle's. He's dead, shot through the head."
Yeah. So, I'm like, well, guess you couldn't told her any other way.
Yeah. So now that's widowed again.
Yes, 2 times. Another 2 babies. Wow. Yeah.
So that is the end, and so chapter 46. Everyone in the town is all worked up over this, of course.
Well, in this town,
it's affecting everybody.
Yeah, and I think all of them are now looking at it from the view of these men were at Belle Watling's, and now they're all these, terrible men for going out on their women, and which I don't know is better to think that they're in the Ku Klux Klan or if they're in her house,
right?
But that's the way everybody's viewing it, and some people realize that Scarlett is at fault.
They're mad at her.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself for talking to Rhett about that, but they just go through they have to meet with the provost and give their statements basically.
Yeah.
And Belle gives her statement, and Rhett's already spoken with her, so
giving her all the names, of all the men, and
give the story.
Yeah, and she does. I mean, she doesn't.
She does it. Yeah. and Ashley has to go and like stand up and do all that and pretend that he's not shot.
Right.
Just hung over.
Get through it. Yeah, exactly.
And they talk about how they think Rhett has done that to just be a joke on everybody.
Yes,
you know, let's just make all these good people look like all the men have been at Watling's place, and
which I don't. Yeah, I mean, like, helping them is they're alive. The ones where Ashley's alive, so.
And we know that he's doing it basically for Scarlett.
Yeah,
I feel like. And Melanie.
And Melanie, I do feel like they have a closeness. But then Belle Watling shows up at Melanie's house in her carriage, asks Melanie to come out, and Melanie had apparently sent her a thank you. Yeah. And she's like, "Why did you send that to me? The Yankees could have seen that. Like that's like implicating." But Melanie is just very grateful to her that she stood up for them, and Bella says that she's always had kind of a fondness with her because of when she had given her that money, to help with the cause or whatever. So it was kind of a interesting little moment. Yeah.
I thought this was funny that you see this side vignette of the doctor and Mrs. Mead talking.
Yes. Because he's like, I would never do that to you. Just know that I don't like that people see me in that light because that's not how I am. And she knows that.
And she's like, so what was it like inside there?
And what did it look like?
He won't tell her. And she's like, well, I'll just find out from somebody else.
Right. She just can't.
He's like scandalized. Like why would you even think I would tell you any of that?
And they call each other. She calls him doctor and he calls her Mrs. Me. It's so cute.
It's cute.
That was a short little chapter.
But that chapter, ended with Belle and Melanie talking.
Yeah.
So, chapter 47, which is XLV in Roman numerals.
Sometimes I can know them, and then sometimes I have to.
You have to think more about it.
Exactly.
Addition and subtraction. Anyway.
Exactly.
One of my students, my children, was like really good at that.
Yeah,
surprisingly,
if I looked at them more often, I feel like it's just when you don't think about it as much, you don't use it, you lose it.
Exactly.
So true.
So now she's like getting a chance to rest, and she's really thinking about what just happened and blaming herself.
Yes. For the first time in her life, she was regretting things she had done, regretting them with a sweeping, superstitious fear that made her cast sidelong glances at the bed upon which she had lain with Frank. She feels like she, killed him.
Yeah.
He begged her not to go, and she didn't listen. She thinks God will punish her for that.
Yeah, she just...
It's all hitting her.
all of what she's done, like even doing the mills and like...
Getting Frank to marry her in the not so good way, and lying, and it's all coming back.
I thought there was this funny part about, she's been drinking the brandy.
Yeah.
And why on earth should it be proper for a woman to drink wine and not spirits? I always think that's interesting because when I read other like historical fiction about that time period or before, the women would like retire to the drawing room or where the men would go in the drawing room or whatever.
Yeah.
And they would each have their own different kind of drink.
Yeah.
And there's this one series I read where she really liked port, but that was like a man's drink. And so she would like hide, like she would do it at home, but then when she was out, people were like scandalized because she would drink port. Anyway,
that is funny. Why was it delegated to each? So like, what was the reasoning?
That's the lady.
Hard liquor, series. I guess. Hard liquor ladies shouldn't drink hard liquor. They're such delicate creatures.
Right. Yeah. They can't handle
Which is probably true.
Well, she didn't care what the town said about her, how unimportant that seemed beside what she would have to answer for to God. I find that she's thinking more about
She really thinks about those in those crucial times. Yep. She goes back to...
Which we can get, when things are easy, we don't often think about.
Yeah, that's true.
What he's doing.
Yeah. But somebody knocks on the door.
Yep. And who might that be?
Yeah. I think she'll see me.
Yeah.
Rhett's voice floated up. But she's lying down, Captain Butler, and she won't see anyone. Poor child. She is so prostrated.
Because this is Frank's funeral.
Yeah, I think he was just in the
like, his
parlor or
grave.
whatever. Yeah.
And so this is like the day,
Yeah.
like the next day, and
Mhm.
Rhett comes calling, and they're like,
She's not gonna
she's
see
not gonna
anybody.
see anybody.
Yeah.
And he's like, I think she'll see me.
Yeah, she'll see me.
And she does come down right away to see Rhett.
She thinks about putting rouge on, but she decides not to, because
yeah.
that would be too much.
Like,
in her black mourning,
Right.
and she'll put a little.
I'll look too happy.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Gosh.
So
Here she is going through all this, like, I've been horrible, but I might as well put a little rouge on. You know? Like,
yeah.
It's funny. Oh, she
So they have a conversation about what's happened, and she like unloads on him about unburdened herself, like you said before, just how she's feeling guilty and all this stuff, and he kind of talks her through that.
Yep.
I kind of starred this one part where I think she's saying, "Will all great Neptune's ocean wash this blood clean from my hand?" Is that from something?
I don't know. Neptune's ocean. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's weird.
It's like, is that Shakespeare or something? I don't know.
Yeah.
I probably look really ignorant right now, but
Yeah, sorry for
That was-
not on the up and up with
that's
that.
why we're reading these things,
That's
so we
right.
can be more well read.
Scholarly.
Mhm.
Both college educated people
Yeah,
out here.
right.
College
So-
degrees.
He kind of talks her down. Like he says, "Would you really have done it differently, though?
Mhm.
Would you really have done things differently?
Right.
Because
If you really think about it.
you make decisions based on where you are at that time,
Right.
And so, you know,
And she thinks about her mother, like, I'm glad she's not here to
Yes.
see me because she thinks she screwed up so bad.
she often, every time when she talks about her mom, I mark it because it just throughout the whole book she
Mhm.
thinks of.
Because your mother is an important person in your life, and then you think, what they would have wanted you to do. You kind of think that in the back of your mind when you make decisions.
Yeah.
What would my parents want me to do?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So blessed that we can still talk with them.
Yeah.
I do think about that sometimes when they're gone,
Mhm.
because I'll ask mom, like, which color sheets should I get for my
Right.
bed, and she'll, like, she answers me, and I'm like, I'll be asking you, but it's like
Yeah.
she's that decorator.
Or dad, even when we said that yesterday, like, dad can't ever, because what would we do? Who would we call in the middle of the night? Who would
Yeah.
we call when we're stuck on the road?
Yeah,
Not that we don't have husbands, but it's just different.
yeah, it's the extra person.
Yeah,
that's retired.
Exactly.
So, yeah, she's talking about that anyway.
She's talking about how she was so mean and now he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
And he says that if he wasn't dead, you'd still be mean.
I really didn't think about God much then, or hell, and when I did think, well, I just reckoned God would understand. But don't you credit God with understanding why you married Frank? Rhett, how can you talk so about God when you know you don't believe there is one?
Yeah.
But you believe in a God of wrath, and that's what's important at present. Why shouldn't the Lord understand?
Yeah. He didn't have to marry, like she talked about, Frank didn't have to do what he did, but he did. Like, trying to make her feel like not everything is completely your fault, but, I'm glad she's in this, she's realizing all these things and, taking stock of what she's done.
So she says, what have you come here for? Like, he says, I'm getting ready to leave.
Yeah, going for quite a little while, gonna
He's
be
going
gone.
to go to England or to get some for some months, he said. And she says there's more news. I still want you more than any woman I've ever seen. And now that Frank is gone, I thought you'd be interested to know it. And she's like,
Whoa.
You're
Like,
the
he's
most
just fresh in the
ill-bred man.
grave, and here we are.
Not that she cared about Frank,
Yeah.
but
yeah.
that much.
Yeah. I think she likes him a little bit, but
Yeah.
not, yeah.
You're the most ill-bred man in the world. And Frank
hardly cold.
If you have any decency, do be quiet, or you'll have Miss Pittypat down here in a minute. I'm afraid you missed my point. Miss your point? I didn't miss anything. Turn me loose. And he says, hush. I'm asking you to marry me. Would you be convinced if I knelt down?
Oh, gosh.
And she's like, what?
Breathlessly, she sat down hard on the sofa.
Is this one of your vile jokes? And they go round and
Oh
round.
my
Like, they
gosh.
argue about this. And are you serious? You wouldn't want to, like, this isn't what you wanted. You didn't want to marry people.
My poor
Anyone-
child, you've never really been married. How can you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like truly married. Like for the first time, I mean, really, she
That
she
was
was
for
hardly
spite,
even
they
married.
said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the second time it was for money.
For money,
And
yeah.
he could help her out. And so now it's like, do you ever think of marrying just for the fun of it? Fun? Don't talk like a fool. There's no fun being married. It's like a whole new
You don't
world.
even know because you've never
Exactly.
done that. I mean, what if you'd had Ashley? Wouldn't you have thought that was fun?
Exactly.
If that's the way it ended up.
Exactly. Yeah. You've been married to a boy and to an old man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Why not try marrying a fine young man who has a bad reputation and away with women? It'll be fun. You are coarse and conceited. I think this conversation is far enough. It's quite vulgar.
Yeah.
Oh, she's so funny.
No, my dear, I'm not in love with you. No more than you are with me. Because she like says, no, I don't love you.
Yeah.
But I'm fond of you.
Mm-hmm. Forgive me, Scarlett. And then he says, my dear Scarlett, my dear Mrs. Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he keeps, that guy.
Throws it in her face.
Come, Scarlett, schoolgirl, gosh, they just go
But
on and on.
like, she ends up saying she will.
Yeah, because he gets her in this
Yes.
passionate
right.
kiss, and they're
Right.
and then he says, say yes, Daniel, and she, yes. Like, she's
She
just
can't
so,
help it.
Yeah. So caught up, how could you say no to that? Like,
He says, well, what do you want me to bring you from England? A ring? Oh, a diamond ring. And Rhett, do buy a great big one. Obviously, he would.
Yes. So she can, go around and
Show it off.
look how wonderful it is. Yeah.
Of course, we know that that's not going to go down well with the town.
No, they
You're like
already
the
hate
despised
them.
people in the whole town.
Exactly. Now you're gonna be even more despised.
So, I hope you have a nice trip.
Yeah.
She just like,
And
bye-bye.
she's like, yeah, like, are you gonna kiss me? And he's, yeah. And what does he say? For the evening to think. Don't you think you've had enough kissing for one evening to think of a modest, well-brought-up young woman? Well, I told you it'd be fun, didn't I? Oh, you're impossible, and I don't care if you never come back. What the heck?
We're getting so worked up over here. Hey.
Okay, yeah. I just can't believe this. Every time she just keeps saying, and if you never come back or whatever.
I don't even care.
And he says, I'm coming back.
Right.
And he comes back with her huge ring.
And I kept thinking we're so close to part 5 that they're going to stop here.
Yeah.
And you won't, I'm going to have to wait until we do this video before I find out,
what happened
he's
next?
dead. He's died in England. They're never going to get married. That's...
Another dead
But
guy.
the last 3 pages of my book,
Yeah. Yep.
she does get her huge rock
Yeah.
with emeralds around
4
it.
carat diamond. Yeah. That had to be so much then.
I was kind of thinking of
Heavy.
Princess Kate's ring because it's sapphire, right?
Yeah.
But it's so big and it has a because
exactly.
it takes up her whole.
That's true. They said it was up to
too.
her knuckle.
Right.
Yeah. So it's kind of like this big. Wow.
Like weighing her hand down.
Yeah. It's something to talk about.
So they get married, right?
Well, no, they're still. They haven't announced. They're going to announce their engagement.
I didn't make any notes really for this last.
Yeah,
part,
they're going to
'cause I'm
announce their
just-
engagement in the town. So it says, Atlanta was in no mood to be tolerant or charitable toward anyone in the enemy camp. And the news of the engagement coming when it did, the town remembered of all the evil things, the pair, and none of the good. About the pair and none of the good. Because they're starting to talk about Mrs. Merriweather. Oh, you shouldn't marry him. I know you don't have a mother around to tell you that. And she says, I'm going to marry Captain Butler, and I wouldn't care if he fought on the Yankee side. Like they keep saying, he didn't fight in the war, and Scarlett says, well, yes, he did, but he wasn't wounded.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not everybody was wounded.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know anybody that wasn't
Can't
wounded.
prove that he was
right
there because he doesn't have some
Right.
kind of injury.
So now I think they think he was on the other side, and she's like, I don't care. I'm marrying him no matter what. Like somebody's just always got to say.
She talks to Mammy about going back to Tara.
Yeah. And tells her she's going to marry whom she pleases.
Right.
She doesn't want anybody to take that from her. Yeah. And I guess he takes her to New Orleans. Because it says in the end, forget about Atlanta, forget about the old cats. I brought you to New Orleans to have fun, and I
They go on their honeymoon.
Yeah, okay, that's what it is, yeah. So then we're going to see New Orleans, and I wonder if we're going to meet the boy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, now that I think about New Orleans.
Right, surely.
Yeah. Only a little bit left. Look how much of the book. It's like this little bits, and we've read all of this. I'm like, it's exciting, but I'm kind of sad because it's like now you've gotten so much into this that it's like, whoa, like,
yeah.
But when we watch
How's
the movie,
this gonna end?
Yeah.
What was this one bit? Without waiting for a reply, Mammy turned and left Scarlet, and if she had said, "Thou shalt see me at Philippi,"
Yeah.
the tones could not have been more ominous.
I remember.
But I didn't know what that meant.
I didn't either. That was confusing. I was like, what does that mean?
There's just these little bits that I'm just curious.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that's the end of both parts
Yeah.
of part 4.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
That is a lot. The war, 2 husbands, 2 kids. Where do we go from here?
Yeah. So the next video will be part 5.
Rhett and Scarlet.
Maybe a little celebration.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, this
We're gonna
was
celebrate.
really long, but there was a lot to this, so
Yeah. Hope it was
enjoy it.
fun.
Thank you.